Excellent, and here we are at Daytona International Speedway. I'm Buzz Cutler with the president of this storied track, Joey Chitwood. Kind of a slow, relaxing weekend for you guys, huh?
I'm not really sure I know what sleep is anymore. We've been hard after it ever since the Rolex 24, but the weather's been so great. I mean, things are shaping up for a really great 500. I couldn't be more happy, but on Monday the 21st, I'm going to get some sleep.
There you go. 12 to 16 hours, I'm assuming. Now, I've talked to lots of track executives, and they all seem to have a background in racing or in driving, and you have a driving background as well, but not a competitive one. You were part of your family's stunt show. Would you barnstorm around the country and do sort of a driving stunt show? Is that the deal?
Yeah, my grandfather actually started the Joey Chitwood Thrill Show, an automobile stunt show back in 1943. We ran that show from 43 to 98, so in 55 years, we would travel the country from June to October, performing at state fairs, county fairs, speedways. I did it for 20 years. I know how to drive a car on two wheels, and I know how to wreck cars on purpose, all those kinds of crazy things. So I think that has prepared me for the management side of the business. Let's just say that I like this side behind a desk versus wrecking a car on the other side. I think things are a little safer right now.
Is that why you switched to just for out of a sense of self-preservation?
Well, I spent 20 years on the road, and we would leave Tampa, Florida, and I had a truck driver's license. I drove one of the car carriers, so I was getting my hands dirty. But after 20 years of doing that, you realize maybe there's something more. And I was a younger person, 24, 25 years old, and I think there was that natural urge to maybe prove myself, do something on my own versus actually work for the family. And who knew that I was going to end up being the president of Indianapolis and then the president of Daytona on my own path. So I'm pretty happy that I kind of went the way I did. I look fondly back at what my grandfather created, though. A 55-year-old family business is pretty special, but I'm pretty happy with where I went and where I am now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because not only are you the president of Daytona, you were the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Do you ever just take a step back and say, man, I have run two of the most storied motorsports venues in the entire world?
If you would have told me when I was 18 years old, a high school senior, that at the age 42, Joey, you would have been president of Indianapolis, president of Daytona, and had built Chicagoland Speedway in the meantime, I would say, you know, you should buy a lottery ticket. There might be better odds for that. So I count myself very lucky. You know, I like to work really hard. I think I understand the sport. I've been around it a long time, and so the fact that I've had a chance to kind of have the keys to the castle at two great properties, it's really exciting. But, you know, you can't really sit back and think like that. We've got to keep focused on what are we going to do better, how are we going to improve, whether it's spending $20 million on a repaving project here at Daytona. What's next? Our fans are always asking us what's next. So at some point, you know, maybe I sleep when I retire. I'll think about how great it's been. But when you're in the moment, you just got to keep pushing forward.
Well, we'll look forward to reading the memoir. I wanted to talk to you. You mentioned the fans and some of the upgrades you've undertaken here. You haven't even been on the job a year at Daytona. It's been pretty tumultuous so far. You've had to make some tough decisions because of the economy. You closed the fan experience, the Daytona fan experience, but at the same time, you loosened up restrictions on fans attending. It seems like a hard balance to, you know, economic viability, fan experience. How do you tread that line?
Well, the key is to ask the fans what they want. That's the first thing. If you're not listening to the fans, you're going to be in trouble. What we actually did is we closed the attraction space, but we enhanced the tours that we give our fans. What we're finding out is when fans show up at Daytona, they want to go out and be in the garage area or Victory Lane or up in the tower because those are areas they're not allowed to go to during a race event. And the attraction space wasn't really, it was nice, but it wasn't ringing the bell for them. So we actually shut that down but expanded the track tours. Fans always want to be able to bring in food and drink, and we had really tight cooler restrictions. We've relaxed that. Now you can bring in a cooler that in essence is a 24 can to 36 can cooler size. Now think about this. We have a $55 ticket for the Daytona 500. You can bring in a cooler full of food and drink, and we have free parking. You can't go to a Super Bowl for that. You can't go to a World Series game. We get it. We need to break down barriers to make sure fans can attend live sporting events because in this day and age, it's really easy to sit home and watch it on the big screen, but we got to make sure we're offering things that are compelling to get fans to get out of that couch, come on down to Daytona and enjoy a great race.
And you've lugged coolers into Daytona as a fan before?
I have. My dad has owned tickets to the Daytona 500 for over 26 years. I used to come here when I was a younger person. In fact, it gets even better than that. The day I was born, 42 years ago, my dad was actually racing a car around Daytona. He wasn't at the hospital with my mom in Tampa. So the fact that I'm the president, knowing that I came here as a fan, that the day I was born my dad was driving a car around here, it's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat story. I think those things give me good experience as I lead the charge and figure out what's next for us. If we're going to call ourselves the World Center of Racing, There's a lot of competition out there for that title. I think we're up for the challenge, but we can't sit back and think it's going to happen on its own.
Now, obviously, the story of Speed Weeks thus far has been the two-car draft, the different style of racing that we've seen. I'm wondering, when you guys were planning and implementing the repave, how much time you spent talking about how this might affect the racing and how many variables you had at your disposal to be able to affect that?
You know, we really didn't have that conversation because, unfortunately, the repave had to happen. We really had no choice in the matter. You know, we had 50-year-old asphalt under the 79 repave that really crumbled away, so there was no way to fix it, so we had to have it happen. Now, we did a tire test, we did an open test in January, so tried to work with NASCAR as much as we could to prepare for this, but, you know, these crew chiefs are pretty darn smart. You know, you give them a couple weeks, they come back when they find their speed, they do the things they do, so NASCAR has to chase them a little bit. What's interesting to me is that it's different. Now, there are fans who may like it, may not like it, but I'm hearing the same thing. I've got to tune in on Sunday to find out if that's how they're going to race the 500 miles, because we've not seen it yet with 43 cars on the track and when it really means something. I think the drivers race the 500 a little different than the duel. The 500, you got to win. You want to be a legend, you want to be the man, you win the 500. The duel, there's not that same energy behind a victory. They're testing out the car, trying to figure it out. So I'm intrigued as to what Sunday will be with two-car drafting, the big pack, and it's the 500. So that could make it for a really compelling show, but all the fans, we got to watch. I don't know. There's unanswered questions. Well, to answer those questions, you have to watch it on Sunday.
Absolutely, and the drivers will be finding the answers out at the same time the fans will be finding out. I think a lot of them don't know quite what to expect either. Joey Chitwood, president of Daytona International Speedway, thanks for taking the time out on Speed Weeks weekend. Don't call him on Monday, he'll be sleeping.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.